Hello and welcome to Dubai This Week. We're at the German Embassy in Abu Dhabi and we'll be joined by Ambassador Peter Fischer. We're going to discuss bilateral relations and hear how the ambassador summarizes his 4-year term. Thanks for giving us this interview, Ambassador.
You're welcome.
So you are completing 4 years here in Abu Dhabi in the UAE before heading to your next post in Georgia. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good. You know, for us diplomats, moving is part of the game, part of the regular schedule. Every 3 or 4 years we change posts, so we're used to it, but it's always, there's a sad element because you leave behind a country that you liked, people that you met that were important to you in one way or the other. But at the same time, you're looking forward to a new experience, a new country, new learning, and new people. So it's how do you say, part of the experience of a diplomat.
You're a career diplomat. You've served for 36 years, so you're not new to the business. You've been in the region before, serving in Israel. What kind of advice would you give an incoming diplomat to the UAE?
That's a tough one. First of all, I would give advice that I would give to a diplomat in any country, and that is accept and respect the people of the country as they are.
What do you think Germany can learn and take from the UAE?
Speed of change. When the UAE makes a decision, the implementation is very rapid. I mean, our societies are set up in a bit of a different way, but in Germany, if there's a law, there can be people who go to court against the government, there can be citizens' initiatives, and so on. But, you know, there's some theories in political science that the most important thing for a society is to be able to adapt.
Agility.
And to change, agility. And UAE has proven that it is very agile, very fast. And Germany, well, it's a bigger unit, it's structured in a different way. And we don't have that same speed.
You've been extremely proactive and supportive of the Abraham Accords. Interestingly, the Israeli and UAE foreign ministers met first in Berlin. What kind of role can Germany, or does Germany see itself having when it comes to regional peace?
Yeah, so I'm a German diplomat. Germany has a special responsibility towards Israel because of the Holocaust, which we committed, the Germans. And therefore, it's a miracle that Germany and Israel today are friends and have been friends for many decades. Right after World War II, nobody thought it would ever be possible. But we have a proven and very deep relationship in many areas, Germany and Israel. So we of course, we welcome the Abraham Accords. It's just important and proper that countries have relationships with Israel. Israel is a fact. It's not going anywhere. And what we can do is we can share with the Emiratis our experience with Israel. We've had a number of initiatives where we have bilateral cooperation with Israel, for example, in science, in research, in environmental research, where we can say there's a similar issue that exists in the UAE, so perhaps UAE wants to come in. One example is we have a very long-standing cooperation between the University of Kiel and the University of Haifa to do research on the warming of the Eastern Mediterranean, which is warming as a result of global warming, has an effect on many, many things. And exactly the same thing is happening in the Gulf, the waters of the Gulf off UAE. So one of the proposals that we're still working on was to bring the UAE into this cooperation. And that can help to build out the Abraham Accords.
What would you tell people outside of the UAE about different faith groups practicing their faith in the UAE? I guess specifically the Jewish community, but in general.
So I was once in a country and somebody said, do you do services, Christian church services? Do you hold them in your residence? And I said, no. She said, oh, why not? Are you too lazy? Is there no pastor? And I said, because the UAE has churches where Christians can practice. Now Abu Dhabi is building a synagogue, an official synagogue, and Hindus and others can also go to their temple and practice. So there's religious freedom here, and people of faith can find their place. So if somebody said, can I go to UAE and can I practice my faith? I would say, by all means, don't worry.
What is your biggest takeaway from this posting?
My biggest takeaway, that the UAE is a successful country, and there are many areas where our interests converge, where German Emirati cooperation is in our mutual interest.
So what would you say is the most significant moment for UAE-German relations during your tenure?
During my tenure, it would have to be the visit of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed to Berlin in 2019 in the summer, when we upgraded our strategic partnership document. We had a document from 2004, so here we are 15 years later, and we really agreed on a very substantial document that outlined all those areas of cooperation that I mentioned to you.
It would be great if you could share a personal highlight of yours from the past 4 years.
Personal highlight. I mean, there were many sort of experiences that I had never experienced before, and perhaps just making friends with some Emiratis. Diplomats are often asked, how many friends did you make? And if you don't say 20 or 100, they say, oh, why? But then if you think people who stay always in the same city, how many real friends? There's friends and then there's people who you know well. So you make in every country a few true friends that will stay. And you met them first in a majlis somewhere, and you make a nice connection, and they invited me into their Emirati life, and my wife as well. And we really had some fantastic experiences, eating barbecue from a hole dug in the sand with the coals on it, and
I hope you ate with your hands.
We ate with our hands, and I remember well there were some Emiratis around, and a friend of this man who was to become my friend, he was trying to serve the goat, that was grilled with a fork and knife, and our host said, look at him with the fork and knife. That's not how you do it. This is how you do it. Take. And so there were some experiences like that where we said, we're really seeing the authentic, real people are being authentic with us and inviting us into their life. And that's a great pleasure and an honor.
Ambassador Peter Fischer, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you, Micha. Thank you.